Hey, my name is Fusabotic, and welcome to this little tutorial. Before we get started painting, I just want to outline a few things that you should do prior to sketching things out and starting to put paint on the canvas. The first is you want to get inspired. So, look at a video, whether it be like something like this or just like some kind of really awesome artistic video or time lapse, or even music or artwork, Tumblr, whatever gets you going. The second thing you want to do is get down what you want to draw or paint, get some photo reference. This is essential if you want to make it look realistic, or even if you want to make it look cartoony. It's a useful tool because you know what attributes you're going to try and replicate. So in this case, I got one single piece of photo reference. In other cases, like if you're making something from imagination, then you want to get several different pieces of reference. And number three, you're going to want to open up Photoshop and start a playlist or music in the background. What this is going to help you to do is, the music really keeps you in that atmosphere of creativity. It helps you to stay paced, and it helps you to maybe think about something else while you're painting, which may not be the best thing for beginner artists, but for people that, like me, who have been doing it for a while, it's really going to help you just get in the zone, as it were. And one thing that I'd recommend is you try out Spotify, which is a free music service. You can just look it up if you want to. It has just plenty of music, and you can have friends send you stuff, so it's going to make you even more adept at different stuff, and that's going to help you get in the zone as well. Except for the commercials, they can be kind of annoying, but once you're in the zone, you're going to make really pretty pictures with smiley faces and stuff. But it might not look quite as good. I've been doing this for a while, so don't get discouraged. Just keep at it, and you'll eventually get to a point where you'll be satisfied with what you do, though you'll always be getting better and improving on yourself. But yeah, that's my preparation stuff. If this is the way I like to do it, you might have a different process that you come up with, but yeah, so without any further ado, let's get started. Alright, so I start out with the 1280 by 720 canvas, and this is what I normally paint with, and I don't like drawing on a white background, so I usually turn it to a gray using 50% on a paint bucket with black. I made a new layer, zoom out a little bit, and the first thing I'm going to do is lay down some guidelines. These are going to help me keep the tiger proportioned in the frame according to the photo reference that I have. So the first line is the top of the body in the background and the rough alignment of the shoulders. Then the second line is going to be the left side of his upper torso and head. Then the right line is the border edge of the tiger itself. There's no other things that go beyond that line on the right. And then this other line is going to be the eyes. I zoom out there just so that I don't have to draw all the way across the screen, and it makes it a little bit easier. Now I added a second layer, and I'm going to start drawing. This part is in time-lapse. Most of the rest of the tutorial is in time-lapse. First, I'm just going to get the outline of the body correct according to those lines, and then I'm going to turn off the lines and start getting the main features. So I'm going to draw the eyes and the mouth first because those are the highest contrast areas and the focal points of the entire drawing itself, or painting I should say. And I'm just working on the ears. I like to keep a very loose line, especially with animals. I never draw any straight lines. It's always going to be curved one way or the other, and that's just going to give it a very organic feel. At first I was going to go for like an open mouth because that's what was in the reference itself, but I didn't like the way it was working with the eyes. It looked like he was grieving something, or he was extremely sad, so I got rid of that and just made it like slightly open. I'm adding a lot of dark around the eyes because that's the way tigers actually look, and it's kind of neat because that's sort of a mascara or eyeshadow effect. Adds a lot of contrast and brings the attention to those eyes in the center. Here I'm working on the background, so I just added in a new layer, made some gradients, drew some squiggles of dark stuff, and then I just Gaussian blurred it to make it like a defocused kind of foresty background with the sky color. And there I masked off the outline of the tiger, and then I added gradients to give a rough shading from up to down, lighter to darker. Now I'm just chipping away with a square brush, and I bring up the brush setting so I can rotate the brush itself, give it a little more texture and variation. And I'm adding in the rough value range. You notice that I'm not doing any colors at the moment, but it does have a slight green tinge from the background because I didn't actually fill the entire mask. I just started whipping out gradients, and that may have not been the best decision, but it does give it a little bit of a tinge as if the background is reflecting onto the tiger. But what I did there was I masked off the jowls and gave it a very soft fall off with the airbrush. Here I'm starting to add in the tiger stripes. I probably should have done this on a separate layer because they are so dark, and it would have been a lot less destructive that way. But I went with it and just started doing stuff. And I'm just working away at it, getting some more fur and detail into it. The key is making it very rough and gestural, having a whole bunch of different types of brush strokes going every which way to simulate the fur. And I'm trying to get the main stripes in first, like the ones on the body, which give a lot of indication as to the curvature of the body, and it actually serves as a sort of compositional tool because they kind of point upwards towards the face in a way. You can see how it curves around his eye and then points into it. So it could be a she, I don't know. The picture wasn't specific. But here I'm just adding a little bit of rim lighting on that his right shoulder, and giving it a little bit more depth to the head, as well as adding in more fur details. And here I'm adding a whole bunch more contrast to the jowls there, because that was one of the darkest areas of the picture, was the mouth and the stripes. But I'm not sure if I went full black on any of the stripes except for the ear. That's one of the areas that I went a little bit overboard with the black. Here I'm adding a whole bunch more contrast around the eyes as well, and some more stripes. And here I'm giving a little bit of like the bottom of the mouth looked as if it was kind of wet, so I want to give it a little bit of a reflective feel. So one way you can do that is have very white kind of whiskers falling off of it, and make them look as if they're sticking together, as if they're wet and droopy. And here I'm detailing the nose, adding some shading, then I'm using that flat brush. As you can see in the brush settings, that's very useful for a whole bunch of different fur and feather type of things. I'm starting to love it quite a lot because it just gives so much, like, I don't know, like a furry feel kind of thing, and you can rotate it around to give it. Now here's where I added in the orange tinge. And what I did was I duplicated the layer, colorized it, then I added a mask, as the arrow pointed to it, and what I'm doing is sort of erasing away the orange layer to reveal the white fur underneath. And you could have done it the other way. You could have erased away the white to show the orange, but that's the way I did it. I'm just using a square brush and adding black to the masking layer, and that's just going to reveal specific parts. And I use the soft brush to give a really smooth fall off between the orange. Now this isn't the final solution. I'm not going to leave it like this. I'm actually going to add some more paint on top to give some really deep reds and highlights in certain areas. But it is definitely a solution. And again, it was a duplicate layer and then do the hue and saturation, I think. Edit hue and saturation, and then check on colorize, and I give it an orange tinge. And here I'm adding in those reds to make it a little more deep orange color. And here I start using a very textured brush. What that's going to do is it's going to give the impression that there's a lot more fur than I actually drew. And you can see that it almost looks like a real brush, and that's what gives it that natural looking feel, even though it's a very low resolution painting by most standards. And most of this is just detailing and making it a little bit more believable. And I'm just adding a little more depth to that lower jaw. You may be wondering, like, where's the eyes? Where's the eyes? Well, I like to save it until around the last part to do the eyes, because that's a main center of focus, and if I start painting them, then I'll start to obsess over them and not worry about the rest of the picture. So I like to do everything else first and then concentrate on the high contrast areas. Here I'm adding a little bit of a blue tinge to simulate the reflectivity of the fur against the background. And there's a little bit of a blue sky up in the upper right hand corner, and that's going to reflect onto the ears. And just most of this is just adding the impression of fur and just getting that look right. Again, I just use that flat brush and then a semi-flat textured brush, and that just gives a wonderful feel to the thing. And now here I'm starting the eyes. What I did there was I just added in 2 orange dots, erased away part of it, and made some shading, added a little bit more lightness, and then I added some reflectivity around the border of it to give it a little more glassy feel, and some highlights, because that's usually what eyes do, is they catch the light and then they reflect it back. And because they're so high contrast, anybody's eyes are generally drawn towards that point in the painting. And just doing some more small detailing here, adding some more red to the fur. Here's my favorite part, is doing the whiskers, because they're so just, I don't know, jovial and kind of fun, loose. You don't have to, there's no set way to do them. They're just all over the place, and they're really quick to do. And I did that with the flat brush again, or you could call it a knife palette brush or something, I don't know. But a few smaller whiskers, and getting towards the end here, just adding some, usually I go over with a soft black brush and add some more depth. And here I'm adding some more blue tinge to the top and further. I added in the tongue and some reflections off of the lower mouth to make it look a little more wet. And let's see, just detailing away. You get to a point where you're like, this painting took about an hour and 45 minutes, and that's generally as much time as I like to spend on a painting. And it's probably going to take a little bit longer for others, but I was surprised how fast I got this one done. But adding some more depth again with the black round brush, soft round brush, and here I'm just adding in my little signature. I draw it and then scale down, put it in the corner. And here I'm merging the layers, adjusting the colors on them, and then adding some curves and bumping up the red values in the mid-range. And then I merge that down, and I add a very interesting effect, which is the lens blur, and then I erase away parts of it like I did with the orange to give a very awesome depth of field effect, which gives a whole bunch of dimensionality or dimensions to your painting. As you can see, this body is kind of blurred out, and some of the whiskers that are coming towards the camera are slightly blurred. And here I'm adding a vignette, which is one of my signature things. Just gives it a little more compositional value. But that's about it, and I hope you enjoyed the painting. Here is the finished product. See you next time.